Now, that Trump supporter who you just saw get arrested is Rick Foos. He was at a Tesla protest in Berkeley, California. And what I really love about this clip is the woman who grabs him almost by the ear and pulls him aside. Like, get over here, young man. You can't be using a taser at a protest. And of course, you shouldn't be using a taser at a protest. But the right doesn't care about free speech, at least when others exercise their free speech. They claim to be the party of freedom and liberty, but when people they disagree with exercise their constitutional rights, they take issue with it. And we see things like this, sadly, semi-regularly. Recently, somebody drove a truck into a Tesla protest, injuring 2 people. You don't have to agree with the protest, but you have to respect their ability to exercise their freedom of speech. But we are forgetting the ultimate victim here, and that's Elon Musk.
Exit down that way. Exit that way.
Thank you very much.
Everybody.
Thanks to all the DOGE team who are getting death threats on a daily basis. Just trying to do the right thing for the American taxpayer and for the American people.
That was Musk in a cabinet meeting complaining about death threats that he's getting. Whether or not these are real remains to be seen, but he certainly does have a track record of lying. Nevertheless, you should not send death threats to anybody, regardless of who they are or what they're doing. But let's take a look at what Elon Musk is doing. Let's take a look at some of those cuts and how they affect working people. And it was rare to see something like this on Fox News, calling those cuts out.
Where are the others?
Here's the problem, though, Sandra.
Where are the others,
with what you said? Elon Musk is standing on stage at CPAC with a chainsaw, making fun of firing federal workers who make $50,000 a year. So, sure, should Tim Walz have made that joke? I don't think so.
I think it was a chainsaw to government spending.
No, he was saying we are taking a chainsaw, we are firing people, these people who cannot now afford health care. They cannot afford to pay their mortgage. These are not just liberal bureaucrats in D.C.
Where was the concern for auto workers who were laid off during the Biden administration?
They are all across the country. And I just will say, Elon has made the personal political. He brought Tesla to the White House. They did an event with Tesla at the White House. And Elon and Trump both have said the worst things about people on X, on the campaign trail, and I don't hear Republicans upset about all of those things.
Right now, Democrats need to be talking everywhere about the effects of these cuts, and they need to speak in plain language. But they also need to specifically articulate the way it benefits the ultra-wealthy. Because there's one thing that everybody, regardless of political party, can identify with, and that's class. And this isn't to say that we should ignore all the other ways people relate to politics and policy, whether it's religion or race or gender, but class can unite everybody. And what this clip does a good job of is showing that it's not just about highlighting the contrast here, the wealthy making these drastic cuts that directly impact the working class. It's also about humanizing it, because there are real people whose lives are negatively impacted. And what does that look like? Now they're struggling to pay their mortgage. Now they're struggling to pay for childcare. Now they're struggling to pay for groceries. All because the world's wealthiest person is going in with a chainsaw to the social safety net. Those benefits, look out for the people who need help the most. Elon Musk does not need help. And when you humanize it, you show how there are everyday people impacted by this, you'll start to see more people come to your side. But the spinsters on Fox News can't handle that. They don't want to have that discussion on air. They don't want their viewers to think about that, to think about the consequences of these cuts.
Should more Democrats condemn firebombing Tesla facilities?
Well, of course, Kaylee, but there's a big difference between firebombing Tesla and saying that Elon Musk has very dangerous ideas. He is hurting average Americans. The world's richest man who makes millions from the U.S. government is taking away, elderly people's pensions because he is every single day. I know people who have lost their jobs because of Elon and they cannot pay for childcare now. That is a terrible, and he jokes about it and laughs about it. Let's talk about that.
His dangerous ideas saved 2 people from space who were stranded during the Biden era.
So what does Kayleigh McEnany do? Change the subject, rushes in to distract people by pointing out that 2 astronauts who were in space were brought home. How does that help us? How does that help people who lost their jobs pay their mortgage? Does that lower the cost of living? Or was it yet another spectacle for Elon Musk and his array of companies? But ultimately, it's important to have these conversations in right-wing spaces. That's why it was really interesting to see Greg Casar go on Fox and make the case.
Elon Musk makes $8 million a day from the federal government. Why are they looking at cutting Medicaid, which serves single moms, people with disabilities, or Social Security, instead of looking at the billions of dollars from the corporate class? It's because those corporations fund those Republican campaigns. I think that what's important for folks to know at home, again, even if you may disagree with me on this social issue or that one, is that every Republican member of Congress right now is looking to cut Medicaid.
To be clear,
over 70% of Republican voters are opposed to Medicaid cuts, But the senator from Nebraska, or North Dakota, you just had on, is talking about passing a bill next week to slash Medicaid by over $800 million. I mean, how is that right? How is that representing the working class person in rural America? I don't get it.
That's a great example of how you should talk about policy in right-wing spaces. You definitely should not go on to right-wing shows and then just agree with them the whole time. While you may have common ground, you need to go on there and specifically lay out how we should be tackling these problems, how these problems created by the right are hurting us, and specifically point out the wealth disparity in this country. And this gets to the challenge, because many Democrats are unwilling to talk about that. Many Democrats want to preserve and protect the status quo. They know their campaigns are largely funded by wealthy donors, and they don't want to upset them, even if those donors right now are remaining silent or stand to profit from Trump's actions. But it's time for Democrats across the board to take a stand against the money in politics. That's in part what's creating this problem. The immense amount of greed and the problem of wealth disparity creates a scenario like this, where the uber elite can fund campaigns, get people that they prefer elected, and then as a thank you for donating to those campaigns, get tapped for cushy jobs in the government. They are then in place to dictate policy. They are then in place to make these cuts, and ultimately, in some cases, privatize previously public government services. Who benefits? They do. Do we see any benefit from that? Of course not. None of this is helping. Trump's trade policies are drastically increasing prices. Trump's cuts across social safety net programs are hurting the most marginalized. The elimination of grants and other federal funding are going to weaken services around the country. And the thing is, people aren't going to fully comprehend just how bad it is until it's too late. Some of these changes might take time, and the effects of these funding freezes or cuts might take time to materialize. And to bring it back to the start, these Tesla protests are upsetting Elon Musk and the Trump team because they see that people have real power. It's not just that people are out in the streets, it's that people are boycotting. That directly affects Tesla's stock price and ultimately Elon's wealth. And because so many other wealthy people are invested in Tesla, it affects their wealth as well. So they're desperately trying to discredit a grassroots movement. They're calling them paid protesters, and they're trying to label anti-Tesla protesters as terrorists. Of course, we see that as ludicrous, but it's because they ultimately want to crush the movement. But when you and I watch that clip, we see a Trump supporter going in with a taser, while everyone else around him peacefully demonstrates. Tell me, who's the actual threat?